Sometimes you don't need a doctor. Sometimes you need a therapist. We often think that the main cause of illness-related death is cancer or heart disease or diabetes. But I would say the number one secret silent killer is trauma. Let me explain. You see, we are all creating our reality at every moment, whether we realize it or not. And sometimes, unfortunately, we accidentally manifest illness in our lives because we aren't addressing certain issues that are lurking in the shadows. It's those traumatic experiences of the past that we've never fully processed. It's the things that we wish to forget. It's the thoughts and feelings lurking in the periphery of your awareness that you desperately try and ignore. But in the end, it's the things that we refuse to face that come back to haunt us. We are often so caught up in strong identity with who we believe we are that anything that potentially threatens that identity is just immediately pushed under the rug. No, I can't possibly have such terrible desires. I shouldn't feel jealous of that person, not me. You might even say, oh, I'm spiritual. I'm above such silly and trivial things. And yet, you might still feel envy or strong feelings of anger or hatred or resentment. And yet, no matter who you think you are, there is always a force that will come along to destroy that made-up illusion, and rightly so. Because it is exactly our tendency to not let go of those rigid and stubborn identities that cause us to never truly face our inner darkness and release the trapped energy that is poisoning our bodies. Once you know this simple concept of reality creation, you will understand exactly how trauma will cause illness in your life. It all begins with energy, which can either be a force of creation or it can be a force of destruction. Now, our mind is a tool that directs the flow of energy. And so, the entire quality of our life is determined precisely by the things we focus our attention on. As they say, where attention goes, energy flows. Now, trauma and repressed emotions cause our energy to be directed down unhealthy and destructive pathways. Imagine one of those electricity poles that you see everywhere. When electricity is properly challenged, challenge. I have challenges on my mind. I am mentally challenged. When electricity is properly channeled, it becomes useful and it can power your house and do great things. But if you were to take some scissors and cut that line, well, first of all, you would die, but what would happen is that the electricity would become extremely dangerous, lethal, and destructive. Now energy can flow outward or it can flow in. When energy is not properly flowing through your body, it is like that cut electrical line. It begins to wreak havoc on the surrounding organs and tissues. And this will manifest as tension, physical symptoms, and even illness. When energy is not properly flowing outward, this could manifest as unhealthy eating habits, negative sexual tendencies, getting in bad relationships, focusing on negativity, always ruminating about the past and worrying about the future, always getting triggered, negative self-talk. You get the idea. You know you have trauma when your mind is hyper-focused on things that are unhealthy or destructive. Now, those unhealthy habits out in the world have physical effects on our body. For instance, if you have trauma related to the sex instinct, you might engage in unhealthy sexual experiences that lead to sexually transmitted diseases. If you have trauma related to food, you might overeat or starve yourself and become physically ill. If you have trauma that causes low self-worth, you might engage in addictions or self-destructive behavior because secretly deep down, you don't believe that your life is worth all that much. It doesn't matter whether energy is flowing outward or in. If it's directed in a destructive way, it will destroy you and manifest death in your life over time. Now, would you like to know how to release this trauma? First, there is something that you need to know. Our mind speaks the language of patterns, and our body speaks the language of emotions. Whenever we have strong emotions about something, our body takes this kind of snapshot. The body and mind work together to paint a picture of, okay, what was the exact pattern that caused this strong emotional response? This is one of the ways our body helps keep us alive. For instance, if you saw a grizzly bear and experienced fear, you would want to remember that for next time. Your body would remember that, okay, whenever you see the pattern of bear, release fear emotions so you are highly motivated to run away. In the same way, if we have a strong emotional reaction to a traumatic experience, our body remembers, and it seems to do this to prepare us in the event that the same thing happens again. We will already be ready to respond. For example, if as a child you were loud and talkative, but you had a parent that constantly told you to shut up, you would eventually associate negativity with talking. Your body would register a threat to your survival, and that information will be permanently stored in your body until it's either released or overwritten. Over time, your throat might literally become more tense and closed off, a bit more constricted so that when you go to speak next time it's hesitation, you'll be stifled, because that is your body keeping you alive. And this is true for all negative experiences and emotions that remain unprocessed. You see, the most important thing for us to understand is that what we are talking about are the physical, biological effects that thoughts and experiences have on our body. Thoughts are electrical impulses in the brain that spark chemical reactions in the body known as emotions. So the physical tissue in your body is affected by every emotion that you have, which means that in order to release the trauma, we have to address the problem from a physical perspective. So here are 3 ways to do this. 1. Face the things that you fear. When you face your fears, you find out that you are more powerful than you could have ever believed. And you reprogram your body to understand that this pattern, this thing that was evoking so much fear in you, this is no longer a threat. You let your body know that, no, I am no longer afraid. I am not weak. I am strong. And this is how you overwrite past trauma. Number 2, physical movement and exercise. Trauma equals trapped energy. Through physical movement, you allow energy to flow more freely. I personally don't believe that this should be your main tactic to release trauma, but it's the perfect foundation to support the other methods. And 3, catharsis or emotional release. You could put a sad song on that makes you cry. Your tears are healing. Just be sure that you focus on experiencing your emotions fully. Be present with them and don't resist. You can also scream into a pillow, practice deep breathing, or break things with a sledgehammer. You didn't hear this from me. Now, these ways of releasing trauma are quite effective. The only problem is that sometimes we can get stuck re-traumatizing ourselves because we can't stop negatively reacting to certain thoughts or certain experiences. If you want to learn the insane power of non-reaction to help this process of trauma release go more smoothly, watch this video here. Much peace and many blessings.